Hi folks, HR Funk here. With an unusual firearm today. In fact, it's so unusual that it's nicknamed the Mutant. What I have here is an Mk47 manufactured by CMMG, and my original intent with this video was to give you a very in-depth review of the Mk47 Mutant and then head out to the range and do some shooting with it. But in my preparation for this video and perusing the CMMG website, it appears that this particular variation of the Mk47 is no longer offered. Instead, they offer their very similar Mk47 Banshee pistol and also the full-size Resolute rifle. So what I'm going to do with this particular video is give you a review of the features that all of those platforms share, and then I'll still head out to the range and give you some shooting impressions when I try this out on some drills. So here we go. Initially released in 2015, CMMG, in their design of the Mk47, elected to essentially design the entire firearm itself around the 7.62x39 cartridge, rather than taking the route of some other manufacturers and trying to modify the AR platform to work with the 7.62x39. CMMG really tried to design the Mk47 around the cartridge itself. In so doing, they elected to use standard AK pattern magazines, and according to CMMG, the Mk47 and nowadays the Resolute and the Banshee versions of this firearm will work with all standard AK style magazines. And you might have noticed when I removed it that it shares the Rock and Lock magazine feature, typically associated with AK style firearms. And also, the magazine release is the paddle in front of the trigger guard. There is no push button that we typically associate with the AR style platform. One of the most visible differences you'll see between this version of the Mk47 and the current Banshee line is the barrel length. The current Banshee has a barrel, I believe, that is 8 inches in length, whereas this one has a 10-inch barrel. Also, CMMG has changed to a different muzzle device. They have a different flash hider, and also they've changed out the brace. Now this one is marked CMMG, but it bears a striking resemblance to the SB Tactical brace. And the one currently offered on the Banshee is CMMG's ripstock. So they have changed that out, but once we get past those things, most of the features are still the same on the Banshee as on this version of the Mk47. They both have a flat top upper receiver and full-length rail. And the M-Bus sights do not come standard on the Mk47 or any of the CMMG firearms. So these have been added later, obviously, as has the EOTech optic. The upper receiver itself might look somewhat different as compared to standard AR-15 rifles and pistols. And that's because it's actually an AR-10 size upper receiver. And the reason for that is the bolt and bolt carrier are also modified AR-10 parts. So rather than go with the AR-15, the smaller bolt and bolt carrier, to work with the somewhat more powerful 7.62x39 cartridge, CMMG elected to go with the bigger, beefier AR-10 style bolt and carrier. And I'll pull that out in just a moment and show it to you. And here is that bolt and bolt carrier. As you can see, it is the larger AR-10 version of the bolt and bolt carrier. Again, CMMG elected to go with this just because the 7.62x39 cartridge does have a little bit more steam behind it than the 5.56 cartridge that the AR-15 bolt and carrier were intended for. So this gives a little bit more of a margin of safety and also a better durability than you would typically get with the smaller, lighter AR-15 parts. As far as the other parts used on the Mk47, the safety, trigger, and charging handle are all standard AR-15 GI parts. The dust cover is also present. Not present, however, is a bolt catch. And I've got an empty magazine in there now, so you can see that when the bolt cycles and there's no round left in the magazine, it does not lock open. In fact, there's no way to physically lock the bolt in the open position with the Mk47. So that is one thing to be aware of. You do not have that bolt catch or bolt hold open after the last shot is fired, or if you just want to lock the bolt open for maintenance or whatever, it's not there. And this version of the Mk47 comes with a mag pull pistol grip and also a dual sling attachment right behind the castle nut. And those again are shared by the current Banshee line, and I believe those are also the same on the Resolute rifles. For all the versions of the Mk47, CMMG uses a medium taper barrel with a rifling twist rate of 1 turn in 10 inches. One of the things I've noticed as I've been handling the Mk47, and this might be part of the reason that CMMG decided to shorten the barrel for the Banshee, is the fact that it's a little bit chunky. I just notice the weight as I'm holding it more than I do normally when I'm holding other AR style pistols. So out of curiosity, I just put it on the official Cabela scale with a fully loaded magazine, and it weighs in at just a little over 9 pounds. So it is a little heavier than you usually associate with this type of a firearm. And again, that might be why CMMG decided to shorten the barrel and maybe give up a little bit of weight. But when I start to shoot it, that might actually help out in controlling the firearm, especially with rapid fire strings. And we'll find that out shortly when we head out to the range. And as you can see, I've arrived on the range to do some shooting with the Mk47 and see how it's going to perform. The ammunition for today's test is Red Army steel-cased ammunition. And by the way, both the Mk47 and the ammunition were supplied to me today from a friend who asked me to do this review. So thanks to my friend Frank for loaning me your Mutant and providing the ammunition for this video. So that's enough talking. Let's start shooting and see how the Mutant is going to perform. All right, folks, I'm going to start out by shooting some slow fire drills from a distance of 15 yards from the target. And I'm just going to take my time with these first few shots, mainly because I haven't shot the Mutant before and I don't know just exactly how it's sighted. So I want to take a few sights and figure out where the shots are going to hit before I get too carried away. So here we go. I'd say the sights are on pretty well. So now let's speed things up a little bit. Yeah, I'd say those sights are pretty good. So one of the things I was curious about on my drive out here is how the 7.62 by 39 round would feel shooting it out of a platform the size and weight of the Mk47. I mean, after all, it was originally designed for the AK-47, and that being a full-size, full-weight firearm, I was just curious what the recoil impulse would be like shooting it out of a Mutant. And I've got to say, it's really not bad at all. It's a little bit more of a push than you typically get shooting a 5.56 pistol, but it's not at all uncomfortable and definitely not difficult to control. So that's pretty impressive, I think. And some of that might have to do with the muzzle device on here. That might be helping to hold things down some, but so far, I'm pretty happy with the way this thing shoots. So I'm going to shoot it some more. I was not planning on shooting this from the bench as part of this video, but the Mk47 is shooting so well, I'm going to give it a try and see what kind of 50-yard groups it'll print. Now, since I wasn't planning on shooting anything from the bench, I didn't bring my usual sandbags, so I'm using a field expedient rest from my Jeep, and that's going to have to suffice while I shoot this at 50 yards, and we'll see how it does. That's 10. Let's go take a look at the 50-yard group. So there's 10 shots from 50 yards in a group that I can cover with my fist with a 7.62 by 39 chambered rifle. I would say that's pretty darn good. Looks like if I measured that, the biggest part of the group, I got one flyer over here that was probably my fault, but that looks like about, what, maybe 2.5 inches, give or take, 2 3/4. Not bad at all. Okay folks, we've reached that point in the video where we have to determine if the Mk47 is a 20-foot tack driver. Now, just like always, when I use an AR style firearm, because of the offset between the sight and the bore axis, I'm going to have to aim over top of the tack in order to try to drive it out of there. So what I'm going to do is fire one shot. The first shot doesn't count because all I want to do is see how low that shot's going to hit so I know about how far over the tack to aim. Then I'll take 3 shots to see if I can drive the tack out of there. So here we go. Okay, so I'm hitting a good 3.5 inches, looks like low from this distance. So I'm going to have to aim well over the tack to try to drive it out of there. Let's see if I can do it. I would never have expected to do that on my first shot. That was just a guesstimation on the hold, and the Mk47 is a 20-foot tack driver. Actually, I had to come up here and take a look and just make sure, and that looks like a dead center hit. I'm not seeing anything but shrapnel out around here. So again, pretty impressive with the Mk47. So in the end, what do I think of the Mk47 Mutant? I've got to say, folks, I'm impressed. And I really didn't expect to be coming out here. I was thinking, AR platform, you know, I've shot lots and lots of these. Yeah, it's chambered for 7.62 by 39, but still, I just didn't expect to be all that excited about it. And what really won me over is the accuracy that I'm seeing out of this Mk47. And the ammunition that I'm shooting is nothing special. It's just plain old steel cased, probably budget priced ammunition, and I'm still seeing very, very good accuracy. Also, the functioning has been flawless with the shooting I've done both on camera and off camera. I put about 50 rounds or so through the Mutant, and granted, that's not a tremendous number of rounds, but currently with the ammunition situation being the way it is, I don't want to shoot up all my friends' ammunition. And again, I'm just very, very impressed with this. Now, my criticisms, and I do have a few criticisms, mostly have to do with CMMG and their pricing. These are not inexpensive firearms. And if you look at the Banshee, the one that's outfitted like this, you're going to see it's up around $1,800. And the Resolute is going to be about the same. And for that price, there are a few things that I would expect. Number one, I would expect, and I've said this with past firearms from CMMG, that is, I would expect them to have some sort of sights. To spend almost $2,000 on a firearm only to have to turn around and spend more money to get some sights to put on it so you can actually go out and shoot the thing, I think is a little silly. I think that at least something like these Magpul backup sights or something else, just an inexpensive sighting system that they could put on there to come with the firearm, would be something that would be definitely beneficial to the shooters and probably would help their business some, because people like me would say, okay, at least I'm getting some sights. Also, the weight, as I said, is a little bit heavy. I mean, it's just heavy enough to be noticeable. Now, in shooting, that goes a long way in helping to control it. But keep in mind, with that shorter barrel, the current production Banshees are not going to have quite that muzzle-heavy feeling. I don't know if they're going to stabilize quite as well, particularly in rapid fire, as this one does or not. Also, again, for the price point of these firearms, I think a trigger upgrade is another thing that should be included. This is a standard GI trigger. It feels like a standard GI trigger. When I was shooting from the bench, it's got a definite staginess to it. You feel it start to pull, then stop, then you push through a little bit of grit, and then it goes a little farther, and then finally it fires. So again, for almost $1,800, I think a trigger upgrade wouldn't be too much to ask. And last but not least, one of my big criticisms for a lot of manufacturers, when you get one of these firearms, it comes with one magazine. Now, granted, AK magazines are not hard to find and it'll work with just about any that you do find, but still, almost $2,000, I think 2 or 3 magazines is not out of the question. Otherwise, the Mk47, as I said, is an impressive firearm. It displays all of CMMG's usual quality. As I said, not a single hiccup the whole time I've been shooting it. The accuracy is fantastic, and it's just a nice little firearm. So if you're looking for an AR platform, but you prefer to have it chambered for the 7.62x39 cartridge, you might want to take a look at the Mk47. And that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember, warbirdbunker.com is making t-shirts for the channel. If you're interested in one of my t-shirts or some of the others that are all firearms or patriotic themed, go to warbirdbunker.com. And also, Nathan said to let everyone know that there is an HR Funk discount code, and if you use the HR Funk discount code, you get another 10% off any t-shirts that you order. So again, that's the video for today, and until next time, good shooting. Bye-bye.